5 years ago, I almost passed out trying to run with my grandson. I was 63 years old. He was 4. It was a summer Saturday here in Nashville. My daughter had brought Leo over to visit. He was wearing those sneakers that light up at the heel, hair all messy, energy that just never seemed to run out. He took off across the backyard, turned around with that huge grin and shouted, "Grandpa, come catch me." I thought, easy, no problem. I started running. 10 steps, that was all I had. My vision went dark around the edges. My chest burned like someone had lit a fire inside it. My legs felt like wet concrete. I had to stop, bend over, put my hands on my knees, trying to breathe like I'd forgotten how. Leo just stood there at the far end of the yard, watching me. That little head tilted to one side, those big eyes trying to figure out what had just happened to his grandfather. And in that moment, I felt something that no doctor had ever managed to make me feel. Shame. Not shame about being old. Shame about realizing I had completely abandoned my own body. That while I was busy surviving, I had let the most important structure in my life crack from the inside out. My name is Michael Davis. I'm 68 years old. I spent 35 years of my life as a civil engineer, designing bridges across Tennessee. And today, according to my medical records, I am stronger and healthier than 95% of men my age. My blood pressure is perfect. My blood sugar is back to normal. And I did all of this without a gym, without supplements, without crazy diets, without 2-hour workouts. I train in my garage, 10 minutes, 3 times a week. And today I'm going to tell you exactly how that happened. If you had seen me 5 years ago, you wouldn't have seen a healthy man. You would have seen a tired man. Big belly, thin arms, short breath. I spent decades building bridges that held thousands of tons, that withstood hurricanes and floods and the weight of time. And while I made sure every structure that left my hands was solid, I was quietly letting my own foundation crack. After my wife passed away, I buried myself even deeper in work. Working was easier than dealing with the silence of the house. Over time, my health started falling apart. Not all at once, because these things never happen all at once. They happen slowly, year after year. You gain a little weight, then a little more. Then you start avoiding stairs. Then you avoid running. Then you avoid any kind of effort at all. Until one day your doctor looks at you with that serious expression. When I was 63, I went in for a routine checkup. My doctor looked at my results, went quiet for a few seconds and said, "Michael, we need to talk. Type 2 diabetes, severe hypertension, dangerously high blood pressure." And then he said something I never forgot. If you don't change something and change it now, a stroke or a heart attack is just a matter of time. I heard all of that, thanked him, took the prescriptions and drove home. Sat in my office, stared at the walls for about 40 minutes, and still didn't change a thing. Until that Saturday in the backyard with Leo. That night, after my daughter took him home, I walked into the garage. Not to train, just to think. There they were, the weights my oldest son had left behind when he moved out years ago. A pair of rusty dumbbells leaning against the wall, a barbell I didn't even know the weight of. Things I had tripped over hundreds of times without paying any attention. I stood there staring at that old iron for a long time, and I started thinking like an engineer. I spent my entire career solving structural problems. When a bridge shows signs of failure, engineers don't panic. They analyze. They find the weak point. They calculate the minimum needed to reinforce what's giving way. And then they rebuild, slowly, with precision. I had a simple thought that night standing in the garage. The human body isn't that different from a bridge. If the foundation is weak, nothing above it is going to work right. And the solution is never to overcomplicate things. The solution is always to find the minimum necessary to get the structure holding weight again. So I decided to do something the fitness industry hates to admit. I decided to look for the minimum, not the maximum. The modern fitness industry took something simple and turned it into an enormously complicated business. They tell you that you need to train 2 hours a day, buy expensive supplements, follow impossible diets, use sophisticated apps, sign up for programs, watch hundreds of videos. And I understand why they do it. Simple content doesn't get clicks. A three-step solution doesn't sell a $500 course. But I learned as an engineer that when a system is too complicated, it fails. Because real people have real lives, work, family, responsibilities. Nobody is going to sustain an impossible routine for months on end. So I started asking myself a different question. What is the minimum effective dose of exercise that still produces real results? In engineering, there's a fundamental principle. You never use more material than necessary. You calculate exactly enough for the structure to do its job. Nothing more, nothing less. Excess material means more weight, more cost, more potential points of failure. The excess doesn't strengthen, it overloads. I decided to apply that same principle to my body. The morning after that night in the garage, I woke up early, went in before coffee. That smell of old rubber and grease, the cold ceiling light, the concrete floor, my son's rusty dumbbells leaning against the wall. There was nothing glamorous about any of it. I started with what I had, picked up the lightest dumbbells, did some squats holding the weight in front of my body, some push-ups with my hands on the hood of the car, a few simple shoulder movements with the dumbbells. No elaborate sequence, no scientific rep count, just basic movements with the weights I had. 10 minutes. I stopped before I felt destroyed. Went and made coffee. It felt ridiculous. Part of me said this wasn't going to change anything. But another part, the part that spent 35 years calculating structures, knew that foundations are built with consistent pressure and time, not with a single explosion of effort on one day. So I did it again. 3 days later, same garage, same cold light, same rusty dumbbells. 10 minutes. Stopped. And I made myself one promise. No matter how busy I was, no matter how I felt, I would never skip those 10 minutes. The first weeks weren't dramatic, but something started happening beneath the surface. My breathing improved. Movements that had felt difficult started feeling natural. After a month, my clothes started fitting looser. After 3 months, my strength started genuinely increasing. I began adding small amounts of weight, a few pounds at a time, the way an engineer does it, calculating the load the structure can handle before adding more. The biggest surprise came when I went back for more blood work. My blood pressure was dropping. My blood sugar was improving. My doctor looked at the results, then looked at me and asked, "Michael, what are you doing differently?" I told him something that made him laugh. I trained 10 minutes in my garage. He laughed. But the numbers didn't lie. Today I'm 68 years old. My blood pressure is 120/80. Perfect. My blood sugar levels are back to normal. My cardiovascular endurance is among the best in my age group. And according to the strength assessments, I'm stronger than the vast majority of men my age. That garage with my son's rusty dumbbells did what no complicated plan had ever managed to do. But the real test wasn't any medical exam. It was last summer. Leo was 9 years old. We were in the backyard again. Same grass, same late afternoon light. He looked at me with that crooked smile he got from his mother and said, "Grandpa, bet you can't catch me." I started running. And this time, I didn't stop. I caught him at the far end of the yard, tackled him into the grass. We both rolled around laughing until neither of us could breathe. But the good kind, you know? The kind that hurts because you're laughing too hard. I lay there on the grass looking up at the Nashville sky with that 9-year-old boy on top of me and thought, that's why. That's exactly why. Those 10 minutes in a cold garage didn't just rebuild my body, they rebuilt my life. Now I need to tell you why I'm sharing all of this. There are millions of people who believe two things that simply aren't true. The first, that it's too late to change. The second, that you need to turn your entire life upside down to improve your health. Neither of those things is true. You don't need a gym. You don't need expensive equipment. You don't need miracle supplements. If you have a garage with any old weight leaning against a wall, you already have more than I needed to get started. And if you don't, your own body weight is enough for the first few months. You only need 3 things: consistency, basic movements, and 10 minutes. In the next videos, I'm going to show you exactly what I did. No secrets and no paid programs. I'll show you the simple exercises I still use in this garage today. How to start even if you're completely out of shape. How to avoid injury. How to progress slowly and sustainably. And how to do all of it without ever leaving your house. Because if a 63-year-old engineer with diabetes, high blood pressure, and years of doing absolutely nothing managed to rebuild his own body in a garage with rusty dumbbells and 10 minutes a day, then there's a very good chance you can too. If you made it this far, maybe there's a part of you that wants to change something. Maybe you're tired of feeling weak. Maybe you're tired of having no energy. Or maybe, just like me, you just want to be able to run with someone you love. If that's the case, stick around. 10 minutes, 3 times a week. I'll see you in the next video.